Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Energy Unleashed. My name is Suzanne, here with my partner, Kim. Hey, girl.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Well, it's weird energy, right? I mean, we were just talking coming on to get ready here to click the button, and the energy is pretty crazy right now, right? I mean, yeah, we're talking what, February 2024, 5. Oh my God, 2025. And it's all over the place. It just feels really scattered. And I am finding that is very kind of similar in some of my client sessions. Today, Kim, I want to talk about a couple of them. I'm going to kind of mush them all together because they're similar in terms of this chaotic energy. We are moving into a time where I think dimensions and timelines and being in one place at one time is almost like obsolete. It doesn't happen anymore. It feels super scattered and chaotic, right? I mean, what are you having happen these days?
Yeah, well, I've had dreams and experiences that I feel like the veil is so much more thin that my experiences are changing within whatever work I'm doing when I'm sleeping or
Ah,
where that is. But a lot of deja vu weirdness going on.
right?
You have those moments where I'm like, wait a minute. Or I see something, but it's not there. Like out of the corner of peripheral, it's like,
Yeah.
what was that? Like it's just some really strange things happening that
I'm
are,
doing a lot of that peripheral on the side, but down on the ground. Like things are
oh
running around on the ground
my
more. Like
God, like what? Little
did I get a cat? I don't know. I mean, that's weird. So yeah. I think also what is happening for both of us and many right now is our eyes are really blurry. It's
Yeah.
really a struggle, and I don't wear glasses all the time, but I do for like far away stuff. But I'm far away and close up, so like in the middle, I'm okay. But it is more and more difficult to zero in without feeling really super blurry right now, and I think that's part of this chaotic timeline business that we're dealing with. So when I used to teach dimensions, for example, way back when, it would be like a layer cake. So you'd have dimension one, dimension two, dimension three, etc. And I used to teach it like a sponge cake with frosting in between each of the layers. And for quite some time now, the frosting in between the layers has been disappearing, meaning it's easier and easier to jump a dimension, jump a timeline, jump into something that isn't exactly as stable as being where you were, etc. And this is happening more and more. And I've had a couple of people we mentioned my daughter Phoebe one time, and I had a client that was similar to her in that they actually drove into a timeline in the vehicle. They were driving through a timeline wrinkle. So instead of being like this, it's like it wrinkles, like almost like that. Okay. So there's this little pocket, oftentimes, that a dimensional pocket or a little bump in the road
Mhm.
metaphorically, but seriously, when they're driving on the road, they go through this spot. And for whatever reason, they resonate with that bump in the road at a different frequency and it throws them off. And they can get locked into that in almost like a panic state. So anytime they go to that space, or in the client's case, anytime they go to that same space, which is a bridge for her, which by the way, she drives on quite often. Whereas my daughter, anytime she got to the space of the resonance of where her car was at when she hit that. So if she would be driving anywhere and hit 54, for example, because that's the resonance and the speed she was at, she'd panic. So
Mm.
the client, when she gets to the space, will panic. My daughter got to the resonance of the car and panicked, but they were very similar. Does that make some sense that they would hit this space and it would re-trigger them into a panic mode? Okay.
That's so interesting because I think when you were teaching dimensions before, it seemed so simple with your cake
It was
description, right?
simple.
This isn't simple. This is like if the veil and the frosting's going away, like it's just going away. This stuff is
Yeah,
kind of mushing together. So that allows the bubbles of wrinkles because there's nothing to keep it separated anymore, right?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I can slip into that with a frequency. I can slip into that with a trigger memory. I can slip into it just because I'm in that physical space and on it goes. And
Mhm.
I'm finding more and more situations, like with my daughter, for example, we went back to the scene of the crime and I literally cleared the mess on the highway because it was distinct. And in Phoebe's case, it was so interesting because she didn't tell me where it was. I generally kind of knew, but I could feel the wrinkle when I was coming closer, just as an empath. I'm like, holy bananas, this is horrible right here. This is where it
Mhm.
was. And it was exactly where it was. So we pulled off on the highway and I closed the so-called wrinkle. It's very, not a portal, but it's kind of similar because you're getting sucked into a space or a frequency that isn't yours.
Mhm.
So I closed all of that and cleared Phoebe, and she hasn't had trouble since with that. I mean, she's pretty much kind of like okay driving and doesn't have that panic attack. But these were consistent for a year and a half until we figured out what the heck was going on. Now, my other client, she goes over this bridge often. And so what I did is I collided time and went back in time and just sort of readjusted her frequency on that spot. And so far, she's feeling pretty good about going over it. And she said she's going to keep testing it and she'll keep checking in to see if that has disappeared as well. So we can take these dimensions and sort of put them back together in the cake of sorts with a healing. Meaning, I'm going to take away that wrinkle. I'm going to do this. I'm going to collapse it so that it's back to where it needs to be in the space where it happened.
So when you see this, like when you're doing the energy healing work, do you see it as part of like there's a bubble in the matrix?
Yeah, I
You
feel
see
it.
it?
In this case, I feel it as an empath, feel it more than I see it.
Okay.
My psychic skills are all of them, but my feel is highest. Well, my cognitive's highest actually, so I just know it and then I can feel it. I don't see it in the matrix, but that would be interesting. It would be like if the squares of the matrix, it would
Mhm.
be a bubble in the squares.
Okay.
If you're
Great. That's what
following,
I
does that make
wondered if
sense?
it was like, because when you think about the cake, I always think linear, just across the
Yep.
world, like linear, and it's really not. In
No.
the
Yeah.
matrix, you've got all the
Yeah. Well,
boxes
it's
or
like,
whatever.
and it's almost sometimes, and again, I mean, this is just my perception, and there's probably other energy people that are, going, nah, so take what resonates, right? But sometimes for me, it has to do with the ley line also. So we've got
Mm.
ley lines within the land, and if the ley lines are running north and south, east and west, which they often do, if the north and south one all of a sudden has a wrinkle and it's like got a whoop like that, that can be a bubble as well. So I straighten out the ley line or I secure the ley line. So there's many, I think, ways that these weird things can happen, and most everybody doesn't really think about it or talk about it because, like, who the heck learns this stuff? We're not
Yeah.
sitting in third grade and they're talking about matrix lines and the ley lines, so
So
nobody.
is it so the whole idea of a panic attack though, when they approach this or get into it, is it because their frequency isn't as high as what's happening or
Or isn't as low. So
as
it can
low?
be either or. It's like you just got the rug pulled out from under you in your solid frequency that you're used to.
Okay.
So people walk around in their auric bubble with hopefully their auric bubble is maintained, which most of us don't even know we have a bubble. But those of us that, like these two people, my daughter and this client included, are aware of their frequency because they do work
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, I just got hijacked. The rug just got pulled out from under me. So my bubble frequency just got totally taken over. And it's like you could just get jumped. And you're not getting jumped by a thing. You're getting jumped by your own frequency being pulled out or jacked up or
Mhm.
pulled down or whatever. So it's instantaneous. And what happens is their panic attack locks into that. And so whenever they go to a memory, or in Phoebe's case, it was a frequency level of the car engine, 54, oh, there it is, or doink. And no matter where she was, she could be driving completely in another part of the town or the country, but if she hit 54, she'd lose her mind. So she was literally taking side roads. She would not go anywhere where she had to get up to
She wouldn't
54.
go that fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. So to protect you really, is this something you can actually protect yourself from or
I don't really think that we have the ability to protect that as much as I think we just get jacked.
yeah.
But we need to be able to figure out how to work with somebody, if not ourselves, to get that trigger out
Mm.
of us then and work really hard to go into that space little by little by little. It's almost like PTSD in some
Yeah.
regards, you
Well,
know?
it's a trauma. It
Yeah.
seems traumatic and that trauma stays in our energy fields as memory. So why wouldn't that? I mean, I get that that would be a trigger of some kind.
And these are really crazy things that the other client I just had is a super She was really cute. She was very young and adorable. And she was so floaty when she came in. She was like a balloon that was just all over the place, just like kind of like the air was going out. Ooh, and not grounded at all. Super adorable, but had serious psychic skills when she was a kid and had locked them down. And so this is something that happens to some people because we will get told when we're younger, oh, that's dangerous or that's silly or that's stupid. And so she locked down a lot of her psychic skills. But when she's sleeping, she's astral traveling and she time travels a lot and she's out of
Mhm.
her body a lot. And in this case, when I worked on her, she was fractaled in a million different places. It was like if you took a big, huge piece of crystal and you shattered it on the ground, or a china pitcher and you shattered it on the ground. So many of her little fractals were everywhere because she had no idea that she's time traveling into other dimensions, other timelines, other whatevers. And I can assume she was doing it in the day a little bit too, but I think most of this was night for her because she wasn't even aware. But she couldn't concentrate. She couldn't like everything was like, what? What? Was I what was I just doing? That kind of thing, where did I go? What, that sort of a that's your indication that you're not in. That's your indication that you're not grounded. And it's not necessary, especially if we're in our 30s, right? I mean, if you're in your young 30s and you can't remember why you walked into the room a second ago, it's not that you're, in dementia phase, you're in fractal phase. And these are really hard on people because they get really, really scattered and they don't have the ability to focus and they can't finish a job and life becomes chaotic and it gets really scary. And so these are called, I don't want to go to the extent and say soul retrieval, but it's almost like that of sorts because we leave fractalized pieces of our soul. And that sounds pretty dramatic. So I don't like to say it's soul retrieval as much as it's fractals of our light, and we retrieve all of those in a healing and we put them in and we lock it down and make it part of our system again. And then we really ground the crap out of that kind of a person. And it's really important that they stay grounded and do some practices for that.
That so it has to feel so different for them, especially if they've been doing that like most of their life, right?
Yeah.
It could be from the beginning. They only
Yes.
know that feeling or that kind of, and it would get more intense, I would guess, as you keep going. And the more open you are, the more open you are, the more open you are.
Yep.
The
And
energy
now,
is
the
different.
more open you are, the more open you are, Kim, then the more open you are now because that, again, frosting is gone
Yeah.
and those spongy cakes are mushing together. If I'm so open, I'm a fractal there, but now I can almost even start to have experiences there or memories there. That was another client, and we did a podcast on her that was in two-dimensional timelines at the same time.
Mhm.
And she was married in one and single in the other. And she was losing giant amounts of time during her day. And she would have yearnings for children in this timeline because she had them in this timeline, and etc. It was really, she thought she was insane. And at first we were wondering if was getting abducted over and over again. And she wasn't abducted. She was just literally in her simultaneous lifetime. And
See,
that's crazy.
I know, we've talked about it before, and it still blows my mind that that can actually happen.
And
You
you met her at that event. She was really frustrated. And when I scanned her, I'm like, holy cow, you are really not in your body. And then when we did the work, it was like astounding to me that it made so much sense and the puzzle pieces came together with why she was losing vast amounts of time. But the emotion of it is so destructive in terms of so sad and yearning for something because I'm actually running a timeline where that's real.
oh my
And then I'm
gosh.
running a timeline where that's not. And those are interspersed like a licorice twist. I mean, that's really crazy stuff. And, back in the day, they probably just would have thrown her in the psych ward.
Well, yeah, and some of that behavior, it could
Maybe
be
even today.
where they drug them up, ADHD or whatever. You can't focus, you can't,
Yep.
whatever. Like, who
Yep.
knows in the medical system,
Well, and try going to a doctor and saying that, oh,
oh,
I lose 4 hours at a time. It's like, okay, right
just
this way.
I have a panic attack when I'm going 54 miles an hour. I don't know
Yeah.
what's happening.
Yeah. So we're very, very
Diagnose that with.
susceptible right now to craziness, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And like you said, so many people are walking around and don't even know what's happening to them, and
No.
I can't imagine though the feeling of being so floaty and scattered. I can. I can. I've been there recently
Yeah.
where I was so far out, not grounding in my body again. And when you ground back in your body, it is such a heavier feeling. It's just
Will you go farther and unleash that both? Will you let listeners know that what does it actually feel? Because you were really struggling. What does it actually feel like and play out like when you're that floaty? And then what did Kim do to actually get grounded?
okay. Um, One, I think I was very numb to emotion. I like my emotional state and finding joy and different happiness and laughter and all the things, crying even at, I used to cry at dog commercials for God's sakes that are, the poor little, anyway, so you spit out your coffee.
Yeah, send
Um,
$12. Yeah.
yeah, so I think that was a big signal that I wasn't paying attention to because I was just doing, doing, doing and really busy, especially
Mm,
it was mainly over the holidays that I got so uh, more numb, just kind of numb to everything. And even
okay.
numb to listening to my body. Like I wasn't even feeling a lot of pain or anything. I did have anyway. So when I realized that I'm really not in my body and I was struggling to the way that I was grounding, bringing in the light through my head, crown, all the way down through the chakras into Mother Earth, and then back up and around, to try and protect myself. That wasn't working the same way. And so I definitely needed help from you and another friend of ours that to actually work to put me back in because I was out there and I was somewhat fractaled, I think. Like it was just really strange. So bringing me back in, my body felt steadier, like standing. I wasn't as wobbly.
Mhm,
My eyes were working better, like they were more focused than they were before. And actually, my thought process and emotions were definitely more online
mhm.
with what I consider my personality or my being to be. And but when you walk, you just feel like you have a better connection with Earth. You're just more steady, I guess is a good
Right.
way to say it. You're just, really it feels good. It feels really good. I like the floaty thing, but also kind of dangerous, when you're
Actually, I
driving.
actually like the floaty thing, but it's very dangerous. I got
Yeah,
yelled
you
at.
like you're driving
So,
somewhere and all of a sudden you're like,
whee!
how did I just get here? Like that's
Yeah,
weird.
really dangerous.
Yeah. But for me, it wasn't a long period of time that this was going on. It was just kind of that crazy time over the Christmas holiday that when I finally sat down and took some time with myself, I realized I was not in a good place. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
then what did you do?
Well, a healing session with you
Yep.
helped a lot, tremendously. But for myself now, I have been using my pendulum a lot more for my chakras
Right.
and making sure that my energy is moving in a good, strong way.
Okay.
But I also have been going out and actually hugging the trees
Yeah.
and doing for the trees, I know I'm doing well when I can see colors. Like with trees, I see a lot of bright green heart colors when I'm in a good place. And sometimes I'll see green man, which is you have to look them up. It's like a tree face.
Yep.
Um, but I actually share my love with them and then ask for their permission to receive the love from them. And so it gets kind of a flow of energy between the tree and myself.
Which is
And
reciprocal, which is super important,
it's
right?
so important. And you can do that sitting in a rock, sitting on the ground, sitting on whatever you're with. It will help definitely pull you back in and have a steadier connection.
And you literally were up at the cabin and you were kind of like desperate enough to go outside in the freezing cold and stick your feet on the ground.
I was, and the oak trees are just so majestic and so lovely and so healing for me,
Yep.
that I know my daughter's standing off to the side. She's like, "What are you seeing? What are you getting? Like what are you getting?" I'm like, "You go hug your own damn tree."
Right? Go do your own work. Yeah.
Seriously.
And again, I want to point out that, things do change isn't let's even start here. Isn't it amazing that there's so many people on this planet that don't even know what grounding is? I
Yeah.
mean, to me, this is something we should be learning in school.
Mhm.
learning and understanding that these bodies are connected to a planetary system that gives us a maternal safe ground. And this is so critical, not only for us, but for the planet.
Mhm.
And to maintain my own frequency within my aura field is like my gas in my gas tank for my vehicle. And these are really basic things that we don't teach anybody. And it is critical for us to be able to go through our day with our own frequency of love and fuel and consciousness, etc. And so grounding in and of itself, I'll never forget when I was starting this work, my mom's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I always do that voice for some reason when I talk about her. I don't know where that comes from. But anyway, I don't know what you're talking about when you tell me to get grounded.
Mhm.
And so this is, there's a free meditation on my homepage website. Just stick it on your phone and do a ground in a bubble if you choose on a daily basis because it will make a huge difference, right? But people like Kim that are doing massive amounts of healing work or energy work or activation work for consecutive years will eventually sometimes find themselves not grounding the same.
Mhm.
And this is the work that we were doing together too, is yes, you can ground your heart into that Mother Earth, and that's great. But some days, sometimes, depending on what's happening out here,
Mhm.
this will not be enough. And so we were extending your grounding capabilities and your what we call Merkaba or your light body into a real horizontal ground as well, coming from your heart chakra. And this is something that I think is very important right now for these people that we're talking about, the Phoebes, the clients that we're talking about, going from dimension to dimension. We were not grounded in our 3D own light body here enough, and oftentimes going into the planet isn't good enough.
Right.
Starseed people, like myself included, for years went into the planet and then didn't stay there. I went through the planet and brought it in a toroidal, kind of a really gigantic way to ground through the cosmos, because that's where my ground is comfortable. Some people are really great going horizontally from the heart chakra and making that bubble or that Merkaba, transport system in our light body so gigantic because we're getting bigger and bigger. So we are going into those other dimensional spaces, but grounding it back into my vehicle still. So it's really important to monitor where you're at energetically. And if my ground is no longer working with the typical ground and bubble, we want to practice into bigger spaces, but bring it back and anchor it into the heart somehow, some way, so this body is always connected or tethered.
Yeah, no, those are really, really important points that you're talking about because the Merkaba, no, I think I've got one. I don't know if people know. Not everybody knows what a Merkaba is. Um,
You got a Merkaba hanging in your room? Oh, oh yeah, you
are.
about to say, oh,
When you think
yeah,
about, you're going out farther, in your
yeah,
points, but also with that, um, I wasn't asking for protection like I normally would in the morning, making sure my chakras are working, but everything is, that I'm going to go through for the day is for my highest and greatest good.
right,
That protect me from anything that is not. And at night, I had been really good about locking down at night as well. Just I'm okay with working during the night, that's fine, but for my highest and greatest good.
right.
And anything that is not, so I call in the archangels and with my higher self and angels and guides, to do that. And I really was lazy about doing that when I was really busy. I was just
Yep.
tired. And
Sometimes when we're not doing all of this work and this practicum, which, I get it, we get tired, we get lazy, but there's something that happened to you and something that happened to the client that I want to point out too. What happens is you go back and you move through the holidays and the old 3D Kim triggers will come back.
Mhm.
Oh, I need a spreadsheet. I'm making fun of you. I need a spreadsheet to go through the holiday to make sure everyone has their job or I have the right this or the right that, I mean, that isn't who you are anymore, but there are still memories and triggers of those days when everything had to be right. Everything had to be this, had to. And you didn't swing that pendulum into that, but it triggers those old, almost panicky things inside of me that I need to. And it puts the body, those memories, cellular memories, even though you've moved so beyond so much of that, will still be in your narration somehow, some way. And like you said, Had you been more present, you would have nipped that in the bud as you went along. But you had a lot going on this year, and you were just like, "Ooh, doo, 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 doo," and it gets you into zombie mode. As zombie mode will reactivate trigger memory and cell memory. So that's what happens, and you will lose it that way. Whereas if you were more present and noticing, oh shit, I'm going back and I'm doing that again, you could nip it in the bud, nip it in the bud, right? So that's kind of an this lifetime old cellular memory trigger. In the case of my client who was having the bridge, what I found in her healing was she actually had a past life trigger.
Oh,
And this is something how she got into the sponge cake and the wrinkle also. The wrinkle was there, but it also activated a past life drowning memory, okay, which I was going to throw into this conversation to make it even more crazy because in that case it's like you times 10. So now I'm not even aware that the lines of dimensions are so open or the fields are so open that I can take in a past life panic from being drowned. So we want to cut that cord and put that away where it belongs also in a healing to say, this is not acceptable. This is not my highest and best in this lifetime. This is another lifetime, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons we can trigger into this stuff. The bottom line is to be really present. To be
Mhm.
really present, like you said, to we don't have to always be great at all of our practices because we're humans and we get caught up. I get it. But at least be present enough to say, oh crap, there's a red light. That's something. There's a indicator. That's a, and do baby meditations or baby clearings along the way because if we don't, then we're caught in that tumbleweed and it just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, everything you said just is exactly because there are things about the holidays that I really enjoy.
Yep.
But
And
when
you're really good at it. I mean, that
right,
is part of you. Yeah.
and I do I love it and the time with people and all the things and but when I'm not being present, I I close down my heart, my it just isn't it's not a great place to be because then I don't enjoy it.
Right.
And I'm not in the present time. So,
Well, you're switching the fuel, Kim. You're
mhm.
switching the fuel to I have to, I need to, I can't, I should, which is fear-based fuel to
Yep.
from I get to and I'm choosing to. I can still be and I'm choosing to. And I mean, I was super proud of myself this year to allow all of my adult children to really take over the holidays with me. It was great.
Mhm.
And again, conscious choice. I mean, I was stuck at this one point right on the precipice of do I jump into I'm going to do all these things or do I allow everybody? And I was like, thank God I allowed everybody. And it was fabulous. It was really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of myself to just let go of all of those reins this time. And it actually was more fun. It really was more fun because then they had fun. They had fun making this, that, or the other thing, or doing this, that, or, blah, blah. So it's allowing everybody their moment to shine by backing off. But man, that's hard when we had so many years of being the one,
I know. Bam,
right?
bam, 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 bam. Yep.
Yeah. So these are cell memories that can, so to round this up, cell memories can do it in this lifetime. Activations from other lifetime memories can do it. Past lives, future lives, collective memories can do this. Wrinkles in time can do this. I mean, there is a multitude of things that can be happening. So it's just really, it's an oddity. But if you ever find yourself in anything like this, please search out something or somebody or do your work to get grounded differently or change how you're doing things and be persistent until you feel comfortable. Because
Mhm.
again, you don't want that tumbleweed to grow.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. That's all good.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
It is. Even after all the work and all the things, it's like, what? How did I get there? But it happens.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
she's back.
Yay.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. On behalf of Kim and I, let's maybe hit the share button, the subscribe button. Yeah, tell your friends about it. Maybe leave a comment. We love the comments. We're starting to get some. And yeah, tell us what you want to hear because we're here for you. Until
Yes.
next time, cosmic hugs.
Bye, everyone.